Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Good afternoon and welcome to the April 7th, 2022 meeting of the City Plan Commission. My name is Chris Cummings, Chair of the Commission, and I call this meeting to order at 1:39, I'm sorry. Would anyone like to read the statement to the public?
I'll do that. Statement to the public. The City Plan Commission has sole and final approval authority over subdivision maps, which is statutorily limited to a ministerial examination of the application's conformance to all applicable code provisions. The staff report for an agenda item may include conditions, exceptions, or modifications. The Commission may approve the item with all staff report conditions, exceptions, or modifications, including additional measures regarding the item as imposed by the Commission. Otherwise, the staff report with all modifications, exceptions, and conditions is approved, and the applicant shall comply with all provisions of the staff report. Commissioners will consider all agenda items other than subdivision items in the form of a public hearing. The formal process is as follows. First, the Commission will hear a staff report followed by a statement from the applicant. Then, members of the public may speak, followed by any final statement from the applicant. Finally, the matter will be closed for further discussion or a motion among the Commission. The Commission shall then make a recommendation that will be forwarded to the City Council.
Thank you. Any changes to the agenda, Raul?
Yes, sir. Raul Garcia, Plan Inspections. So we do have one postponement. It is item number 3. Item number 3 will be postponed till for 4 weeks, which will put it at the May 5th CPC meeting. Other than that, there are the minutes, one item on consent, which are the minutes, and there is one revised staff report. That is all I have, sir.
Thank you. Elsa, is there anyone signed up to speak? The general public? Just to the general public? No? Okay.
Motion to approve the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve
Second.
the
Stout.
changes. You got a second? Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move. Stout.
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Item number 1, please. Or item number 2, I should say.
Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Commission. George Olmos with Planning and Inspections. This item is the Shops at Mission Ridge. This is a major combination application. This development is located outside the city of El Paso and within the extraterritorial jurisdiction, south of Pelicano Drive and west of Mission Ridge Boulevard. This development is within the city's path of potential annexation. Primary access to the subdivision is proposed from Pelicano Drive and Mission Ridge Boulevard. This slide shows the proposed final plat superimposed over aerial imagery. The applicant is proposing to subdivide 10.3141 acres of land to create 2 commercial lots. These lots will be approximately 8.941 acres and 1.373 acres in size. This application was reviewed under the standards of the current subdivision code. We have the preliminary plat. We see the final plat. The applicant is requesting one exception pursuant to El Paso City Code Section 19.10.050, roadway participation policies, improvement of roads and utilities within and/or abutting the subdivision of the applicable code. The exception is as follows: to waive the requirement of a 5-foot parkway to allow for a 4-foot parkway along Pelicano Drive. We can see the required and the existing cross sections. As well as the existing conditions surrounding the subdivision. Requested exception meets the criteria outlined in section 19.10.050A1A, which states that the City Plan Commission may waive such requirements to provide rights-of-way or street improvements to adjacent substandard roads based on any of the following factors. That 50% of the lots within a quarter mile of the proposed development have already been developed and that the existing street improvements are in character with the neighborhood. The exception request to waive the required improvements for Pelicano Drive meet the criteria stated above. Staff recommends approval of the exception request to waive right-of-way improvements in order to match existing conditions. Here we have a map showing existing development. Recommends approval of the shops on Mission Ridge on a major combination basis and approval of the exception request. Thank you. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
I have a question, Diana Gutierrez. You stated it was a potential annexation. Is there a time limit for that, a time frame that we can look at? Or
The process would be initiated by the property owners, and it would be up to them to request that from the city or initiate the process, so that would be entirely up to them.
do you have any idea as to, have they brought it up of a proposed annexation?
I would defer that question to the applicant or representative.
Maybe I can speak a little bit more to that. Kevin Smith with Planning Inspections. So the state recently made some changes to the annexation process, and so the city right now cannot force annexation upon a property owner. So it is up to them to petition the city to annex the property. For areas such as this, it was determined that this is where the city is going to expand and where it should go over the next number of years. There's no timeline. Again, I believe the city limits there's still, a little ways between this property and the city limits. Obviously, all those properties would also have to be annexed into the city. So we have a contiguous city, so we can provide adequate city services. But that's a long answer to your short answer. There is no timeline for them to come in. It's more the long-term vision or the plan. But with recent state changes, it is unknown. Because right now every single property owner between this property, for instance, and the city limits would have to come in. So it would be a contiguous boundary. So we wouldn't have these little islands of, here's the main part of El Paso, and here's this little portion too. It needs to be contiguous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. The exception, is it for the sidewalk?
Yes.
The parkway.
Okay, so the park.
It is for my bad, it is for the parkway.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if it's for the applicant or for, on the bottom, I guess the southwest corner, it seems to make like a driveway there. I mean, what is that?
Hey, George, maybe can you go to the preliminary plat? Probably be best.
Do you want me to answer that?
I would defer that question to the applicant.
Good afternoon, George Halou with SLI Engineering. That, the portion to the south was platted by others, and they left this stub out like a driveway, but they did not leave a way to come out from the subdivision to the next subdivision. So I have a pond in there in that area right now. I don't have a plan for a driveway at all.
And looking at the aerial, it looks like it goes almost right up against the houses there. or
It's
something.
residential, yeah. I don't know why they platted it this way.
Is that?
This is how we bought it.
Can go back to that land. I mean, is there a fence there along that?
That we're gonna have a fence and a pond. Like the area that you see on the south side, all these lines, this is a pond, a drainage pond. So there's no way we can cross it to the houses.
Okay, thank you.
And the waiver is for the parkway because the county is building Pelicano, and they only have 4 feet from the loop all the way to Mission Ridge, so we're matching their section.
So just, I guess, this wouldn't come back to cost any, in the future, it wouldn't cost the city anything to do anything?
No, it's 4 foot of parkways. The trees, they're acceptable in 4 feet, not less than 4 feet. I'm not a landscaper, but that's what I learned.
Okay.
And to that point as well, since this is in the county, it would not incur the city.
Right, but we're
any
talking
costs,
about-
But taxpayers within the city potentially, I'm not sure how that project is funded, it might be through
It's
federal
by the
funds.
CRMA.
The RMA, okay. So federal funds are used to, it sounds like, to fund this extension of Pelicano.
And we agree with all staff comments.
Any other questions for the applicant? No, thank you. We can move to further discussion or motion.
Second, Guzman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4, please.
That would also be me. One moment. Okay. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Commission. George Olmos with Planning and Inspections again. This item is the Village at Simmering Unit 3. This is a major combination application. This development is located within the city of El Paso, north of Artcraft Road and east of I-10. Primary access to the subdivision is proposed from Wrestler Drive, Simmering Park Drive, Simmering Canyon Drive, and Northern Pass Drive. This slide shows the proposed final plat over aerial imagery. The applicant is proposing to subdivide 17.838 acres of land to create 1 commercial lot and 1 residential lot. This application was granted vested rights under the Rancho Las Lomas land study and was reviewed under the former subdivision code that was in effect in 2003. The Rancho Las Lomas land study was approved by the City Plan Commission on December 4th, 2003. The proposed development is in concordance with the approved land study. We have the preliminary plat. We see the final plat. Here we have the land study with the subdivision outlined in red. The applicant is requesting 4 modifications pursuant to El Paso City Code Section 19.04.170, modifications of conditions of the applicable code. The modifications are as follows: to allow the existing 130 feet right-of-way improvements to remain on Wrestler Drive, to allow the existing 86 feet of right-of-way improvements to remain on Simmering Park Drive, to allow the existing 91 feet of right-of-way improvements to remain on Simmering Canyon Drive, and finally, to allow the existing 84 feet of right-of-way improvements to remain on Northern Pass Drive. We can see the required and existing cross-sections for Wrestler Drive. For Simmering Park Drive. For Simmering Canyon Drive. And for Northern Pass Drive. We can see the existing conditions. The application meets the following criteria under section 19.04.170A3, modifications of conditions of the former subdivision code for requesting modifications. The increased parkway size that is present provides better access for pedestrians, and the reduced roadway is conducive to residential uses. The existing right-of-way for Wrestler Drive, Simmering Canyon Drive, Simmering Park Drive, and Northern Pass Drive are consistent with and exceed current DSC standards. Recommends approval of the Village at Simmering Unit 3 on a major combination basis and approval of the modification requests. Thank you. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? No, then we can hear from the applicant, please.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the Commission. Adrian Ontiveros with CSA Design Group. We concur with staff comments.
Okay, thank you. What's the zoning R3A? I guess I should ask staff.
That's just a single-family residential.
Okay. So that's one lot that's 7 acres?
Yeah, we're just preparing the entire lot for sale. I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen with a residential lot, but we're just basically holding the zoning line as the separation between the two lots.
It's a 7 acre, one residential lot.
For the time being, yes, sir.
Okay, you're probably gonna come back and subdivide that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Yeah, and to that note, it could either be subdivided in the future to meet the appropriate R3A, or there are a number of uses that may be put here, such as a church go here, a school, a park site. Again, it just has to meet the appropriate zoning configuration. And if it needs to be subdivided later on, obviously that'd be something that would come before you in
So it's a placeholder, basically.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? No. Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Guzman.
Gutierrez, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Item number 5.
Well, good afternoon, Chair, members of the Commission. Luis Zamora with Planning and Inspections. Seems like this thing just crashed, so just give me a couple of seconds. Yeah, no, it crashed. Do you have a USB? No, the PowerPoint. I apologize.
No problem.
Technical issues. Can you all see it on the screen?
No.
No?
So IT, I believe it's the podium that you want to share, please.
There you go.
Okay, there you go. There it is. Again, it's been a big pause. So Lisa Mora with Planning and Inspections. Item 5 on the agenda is a rezoning request for the property at 7249 Dell Road. This property is located south of North Loop and west of Hawkins / Dodge within District 3. This is an aerial view of the subject property, which is currently vacant. This is a zoning map. The applicant requests to rezone from A2 apartments to C1 commercial. And this is to allow a mix of retail and office uses. Properties to the north are zone C1. To the east, zone C2 commercial. To the south and west, zone A2. This property is located within the G7 industrial and/or rail yards future land use designation. The proposed mix of retail and offices is in keeping with such designation of Plan El Paso. Here we have a generalized plot plan. It shows a proposed development configuration on the property with a conceptual building footprint and parking lot with access from Dodge Road. Dodge Road is classified as a major arterial in the city's major thoroughfare plan and is appropriate to serve the development. Currently, there is no sidewalk along Dodge Road, but just know that it will be required prior to development. Here we have a picture of the subject property. Again, this property is vacant. Properties to the north include apartments and materials sales stores, zone C1 commercial. To the east, properties include a restaurant that is zone C2 commercial. To the south, there is a vacant property, zone A2 apartments. And to the west, properties include single-family dwellings, zone A2 apartments. The subject property lies within the Styles Garden Neighborhood Association, Mission Valley Civic Association, and Corridor 20 Civic Association, which the applicant notified of the request. Public notice was sent to all property owners within 200 feet of the subject property on March 23, 2022. One email in support to the request has been received from the Mission Valley Civic Association. In addition, we received one email and a follow-up call from Ms. Villagran on behalf of Styles Garden Neighborhood Association in opposition. With this, staff recommends approval with conditions. I want to point out that right now before the hearing, we were in talks with the applicant and Ms. Villagran from Styles Gardens, and there were additional recommendations, conditions that we're gonna recommend right now, besides what's on the screen right now. So the first condition will be that a 10-foot landscape buffer with high-profile native or naturalized trees of at least 2-inch caliber and 10 feet in height shall be placed at 15 feet on center along the property lines adjacent to residential or apartment zone districts or uses. The landscape buffer shall be irrigated and maintained by the property owner at all times and shall be installed prior to the issuance of any certificates of occupancy. Now, a second condition that we're going to recommend right now is that a detailed site development plan review per city code be required prior to the issuance of any building permits. And then the third condition we're recommending is that the following uses will not be permitted, and this include motor vehicle repair minor and automotive service station. And this concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Are we allowed to restrict that kind of use?
The short answer is yes. We can restrict let me say a few uses. If we do too many, then that is more like contract zoning, and you see those in the past. I remember there was an item that came before the commission a number of months ago, I believe on Golden Hill Terrace, that restricted all uses to only one. That was done back in the 80s. That would be illegal now, but we can restrict a handful. Staff doesn't like to do more than, I would say, generally about five restrictions if needed. But again, that's something, as you look at these zoning cases, again, when you approve a rezoning change, it is all the uses that are allowed per the code would be permitted unless restricted by a condition, such as the one recommended, and that was stated by Luis just now.
Yeah, because I feel like you all typically warn us against doing it at all.
Yeah, if I may, this is something that was in agreement right now before the hearing between the applicant and the Ms. Villagran from Styles Garden. So that's why we're recommending it.
Okay.
Right, and Raul Garcia, just real quick, plan inspections, just to provide a quick history, and I think the applicant did do their due diligence from the day this application, actually before the application was submitted. He went out there with the community, with the Styles Garden group, and started that outreach with them. In fact, it continued up until today, right before the meeting. So these conditions, as happens in many cases, are as a result of that outreach that happens with the community. And it's just things that will help to make the community feel comfortable with the proposed change.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes. On the other side of North Loop, that's Hawkins, right?
Dodge is the extension of Hawkins. At North Loop, it changes street names.
Yeah.
So it's the extension of Hawkins, but which I believe dead ends here at the rail line, which is not too far from this property.
There, I know at one time, I think the city planned extension Hawkins, but this would not affect that if they were to ever extend Hawkins?
No, as it abuts Hawkins/Dodge, it would extend further south past the railroad, so it'd be a coordination with the rail company to traverse it if Hawkins/Dodge was ever to be extended. And Luis, do you know if it's on the MTP to extend?
No, I'm not aware.
But I'm aware that this area here is fairly large already in terms of the width of Dodge, and so I don't know the actual width, but it is fairly large and seems sufficient for major arterial.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that. The only thing I know is that portion that extends from North Loop South, where the property is, it is classified as a major thoroughfare, a major arterial. But yeah, I don't know now how far it will continue.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm happy to hear that there was engagement between the business and the community on this matter. When I originally read this and saw mixed use, it made me wonder about sometimes a really broad definition for what can be included in mixed. And I'm glad to hear that the auto repair restriction and so on is there. However, the proposal and the place that it's happening in reminded me of one that came up during the fall. That Mission Valley, which I know approves of this, the Mission Valley Civic Association had concerns with. And so I just wonder, is there a possibility that there would be a warehouse and trucks going in and out? Or is that excluded from this mixed use definition?
So I'm not entirely sure. I think warehouse is not permitted. I don't know if Raul, can you confirm?
That's correct. Those uses you mentioned, ma'am, warehousing, trucking facilities, those would require a C4.
Oh, okay.
Minimum of C3. Again, the C1 is a lot lower than that. It's a more neighborhood zoning that would allow neighborhood-friendly, neighborhood-type commercial services.
Okay. Glad to hear it. Thank you.
And just a little bit to go along with that, as there is some abutting residential or some residential in the area, that is something as we looked at. The C1 is appropriate and something we encourage too, as we encourage a variety of uses, especially close to residential. We want to encourage some appropriate uses so people don't have to get in their car and drive. They can walk. And again, this is a conceptual, but again, we want to look at those uses throughout the city and see what is appropriate. Close to residential and the C1 is very appropriate for including these.
Thank you.
Mr. Guzman?
I don't know if the question was for Mr. Zamora or the applicant. Is he in accordance with the other two modifications you guys just added? Or the two restrictions you guys just added? Is he okay with that,
I
or?
guess we'll ask the applicant if.
That's why I don't know if it was, since he's mentioning.
That's
came
what
up.
we discussed before the hearing, but yeah, I defer to the applicant.
Thank you.
If there are no more questions for the staff, we'll hear from the applicant, please.
Hi, good afternoon. My name's Scott Winton. I'm representing Manuel Garza, the owner of the property. I'm here acting as a planning consultant. And yes, we are fine with the restrictions. His original request was for a C4, and as we worked through the neighborhood, we realized that wasn't going to work, so we modified our request to a C1. And from day one, their concern has been not only trucks, but also the automotive and automotive type uses. So we're fine with that because we knew that was not something that was probably going to be even a market that he was going to pursue. So, and the C1 zoning does allow him to have a little more flexibility than the A2. And as you see, it's almost like a 6-lane roadway right out there in front of his property. So this zoning can be, I think, more applicable for what's going on there.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Great. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to congratulate you. I guess we got the ball rolling. Nobody has gone before to the neighborhood associations and started a dialogue. So this helped out a lot, I guess, for this commission to make a decision. So thank you. I hope it continues like that.
It really surprises me that that's not best practices in some ways of people that are practicing, that are appearing before y'all, because it just makes sense to me that you reach out to the neighborhood, because you're going to get a chance to meet them one way or another. And I'd much rather meet them and we walk in and we've become friends over this. And I hope they agree with me. And so I'm looking forward to working with them and taking it to the next level too. We've even talked about the possibility of using this as a model for perhaps a way that we can empower a neighborhood with a greenhouse to table restaurant, use it as a training forum and kind of as a business incubator and a new model. And again, we desire to be able to get people out of the car as much as possible as well. So I think we're all in alignment with the same ideals.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Just real quick, on staff's part, that is something we're also encouraging applicants more and more now. From the get-go to do that outreach with the neighborhood, especially in these requests that are in residential and they're proposing commercial. It never hurts to do that outreach early on and start that dialogue with the community. So that is something, just so the commission knows, that we are encouraging more and more when we have our pre-application meetings with these prospective applicants.
That's great, Raul, because I think that clarifies a lot of the stuff that sometimes goes on. It's just miscommunication between the developer or the applicant and the neighborhoods or even the neighborhoods associations. So thank you.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to necessarily be an adversarial relationship, but our structure seems that we align it up. Even the developer has an adversarial relationship with the city and then with the neighbors, but it should be one that we're all striving for the same goal of building a better El Paso. And the best way we can do that is by collaborating with each other rather than fighting against each other. So, thank you.
Totally agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gutierrez, I don't know if this question is for the applicant or the staff, but I noticed initially that Representative Cassandra Hernandez was in opposition to the association. Is she aware of the recommendations of the changes?
Yes, so I'll try to answer. So in your package, this has a revised staff report in the package. There's an email from the office of the city rep. It seems like Ms. Villagram or someone in the neighborhood association reached out to them. I'm not entirely sure whether they told them they were in opposition or not, but obviously in the email, that's what it states. Again, during the presentation, I stated, I follow up with a call, and this happened yesterday afternoon, and I talked to Ms. Villagrán about these issues. We went through the uses that are permitted and not going through obviously the main issue with the neighborhood association are automotive repair uses. So it was decided just to keep this at a supposition. Again, in the presentation, I stated the email in opposition, which was the preliminary contact with the city rep, and then the call, because it's the follow-up call. And we decided just to keep it as a position and have the time for a discussion right now. But that's all I know and I can share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I might, if I'm looking at the right email from the city representative, it's actually just forwarded on to staff for our information, for our backup. The city rep, from what I understand, has not voiced a concern one way or the other. Obviously, this will come before her and the whole city council here in the coming weeks for action.
The only reason I asked is because the presentation, both by the staff, your staff, and the applicant is very positive. And when this is presented to the city, hopefully that information, I'm sure, will be presented so that it encourages city representatives to move forward with this kind of cooperation between the applicant and the city. Thank you very much. I appreciate your concern and your help with this.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, and we have several folks signed up to speak. First up is Mr. Rodolfo Rodriguez.
Mr. Chair, give me just 1 second to redo the lights.
Sure.
1 second.
Would you just hold 1 second, Mr. Rodriguez?
Sure.
Thank you. We're gonna get some mood lighting going here. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, City Plan Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I just was undecided after speaking with Mr. Winton. I do agree with the restrictions that they placed, because the last thing we need is more tire places and service places in that neighborhood. And that was my concern. But I did talk to Mr. Winton, and to me, I'm okay with it.
Well, we appreciate your engagement. Thank you
And I
very
do
much.
thank him for going out and talking to the residents.
Thank you very much for expressing that.
Thank you.
Ms. Villagran?
I have some pictures here. Is there any way that you can put them?
Share that with them?
Yes. Is there any way to view on the top?
I don't think we have anything to put them on. I'll have to share them across them.
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm representing the Styles Garden and the citizens. We're opposing the application of Manuel Garza for zoning from an A2 to a C1 at 7249 Dale Road. We oppose this due to uncertain what the owner will bring as a business or mixtures permitted uses. How the lady here was concerned, as I am concerned for that too. We oppose this due to safety issues, having citizens living nearby, and the well-being of our community. We have worked very hard to have our Styles Garden fixed up, Styles Garden beautify, even nuts trees on there. So I would like to add that the lot now is not upkeep. If you could see the pictures, there's a sofa there, there's grass there, and not only that, we've been having semi trucks, just one head truck, or semi trucks, a station there on the lot. And the thing is that they are messing up our cord. There's a picture there too, where you will see that the tires are, going up on there. This is causing, like I said, the cord to be broken. We don't want more trailers in the area. If it's approved, We want, like I said, restrictions of no oil stations, no tire shops. And this would be allowed right now under a C1. I do have a petition of residents against it. And again, thank you for your attention to this zoning. Thank you.
Mr. Winton, you've already shared your case, or would you like to speak again? I think I recognize that that was written before your meeting outside, right?
That's right. That was discussed, and so she's kind of in an awkward position. She's kind of empowered to present what they've given her with. But I feel like what we've agreed to has probably addressed their concerns about the automotive uses, and also the requirement for the detailed site plan submittal gives them a chance to really have a chance to review what will eventually get built there. Right. So I feel like that maybe when she takes that word back to her group, that she will see that that's probably going to be acceptable. I hope it will be.
Me too.
And again, we want to work with them through to the next stage as well. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question, Gutierrez.
Well, actually, in the public portion, we're not really asking questions. We're just receiving the public input, and then maybe we could have a discussion at the end, just so we get through the public.
Okay.
Okay. And lastly, Ms. Corrion, I don't know if you're online to speak. It's *6 to unmute yourself. Ms. Corrion, I'm sorry.
Ms. Carrion, if you're on the phone, *6 to mute your phone.
I just pressed.
Yes, we hear you.
Good afternoon, City Planning Commission. Sylvia Carrion with the Mission Valley Civic Association.
Hello.
It's nice to have a face to Mr. Scott Whitten. I've been talking to you on the phone for the last couple of months, and it's nice to see a face to the name. I asked to speak on this particular item because we have been talking about the original request was for a C4, the diesel trucks, and that's what we were against from the top. When we had the presentation on the North Loop venture that was turned down, he realized that the C4 was not going to go. And so we've been discussing about what other options to do, and the C1 seemed very possible. We discussed about the type of businesses that could be acquired for a C1, and I did tell him that car lots are not allowed on the C1, but there are other automobile stuff that gets awarded. So by agreeing to stuff like this, this would be an excellent area. The community there does need some commercial area, stores. There's a lot of little businesses that can be brought to that area, and I think he was in agreement that that might be something that was going to be feasibly possible for that area. So with that in mind, that he's made the agreement of limiting the car usage on the thing, we as a civic association do wholeheartedly approve, and hopefully you'll grant this request. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carrion. Okay, we can move to further discussion, or let's discuss.
Thank you. Gutierrez, just a question in reference to the pictures that were sent around, and this is for the developer, the applicant.
Sure.
Please don't misunderstand me, but this lot has been owned by the applicant, and I see a sofa there, and I know that's going to be removed. But my concern is now that you've changed it, or it's requesting the change, why was the sofa left there for the people to have to complain about?
Yeah, I saw the sofa for the first time on Monday, so I'm not sure about that. Also, I saw the damages being caused by the trucks that Elva mentioned. So the owner's aware of it. He'll be removing that.
And I appreciate that. Not being offensive or anything, but it appears to me that until there's actual move to do something with the properties, things like that continue to happen.
Yeah, and I don't think it's being left there deliberately. And of course, you and I both know what happens with one sofa, it multiplies. So we'll get it removed.
I mean, I
Thank you
think
very
that's the
much.
thing about an idle piece of land that's maybe not the best use for the owner. If you start rezoning it, you get it to the right use you want, you start paying attention to it more, maybe fencing it. It's a productive thing to rezone, I think, in this case.
Right, it starts becoming a part of a person's future.
Right.
Right.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, I really applaud the collaborative approach as opposed to the adversarial approach. I just wonder why Ms. Villagran wasn't included in this collaboration.
Well, she was, and we actually but I didn't get to start meeting with her until Monday. And by that time, she already had the ball rolling for a lot of different things. And so I do regret that it was a little later in the game than it probably should have been. But she's certainly included now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to motion to approve with the 2 additional conditions that staff is requiring.
Second, Stout?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you all. Thank you.
See, that's what I see a lot of.
Okay, item number 6, land study training.
So as Raul was bringing up the presentation, so one of the things that we're trying to do be more proactive is more training with the City Plan Commission on various topics. Russell had a presentation last commission meeting. We are presenting another item today on land studies. Just sort of if you wanted to call it a crash course. This is not going to be obviously everything about land studies, but a overview to get the commission to have a better understanding of what land studies are. We're also going to be providing other items on the coming meetings, where appropriate and time allows to bring additional items. So Raul will be presenting today on land studies.
Thank you, Kevin. So yeah, I have a short presentation just to kind of basically go over land studies and the role they play in our subdivision process. I know the commission hears a lot about land studies in terms of vesting and all these subdivisions that come through. So obviously the need is there to go ahead and provide this information to the commission. So just to start off with, what is a land study? The code definition defines it as the initial plan for subdividing that affords the applicant the opportunity to phase that development. It allows the opportunity for integrated development, again, that phasing of the proposed development, and it fosters that general consensus in terms of compliance with the code. It's that introductory overall master plan that gives everybody a chance to look at and compare against the different code requirements, identify any major issues that may come up further on down the road as the development progresses. In terms of vesting, the land study will have to meet all requirements of Title 19, the subdivision ordinance. And when you guys see the land studies come before you, as a backup would show that analysis has been done and it has been confirmed that the development does meet all the requirements of Title 19. The purpose of a land study, again, to delineate the sequence and timing of the overall development, where tracts are being developed are part of larger parcels under the control of one applicant. And again, it gives us that initial introduction to the overall development in terms of compliance with the city's comprehensive plan, the availability of public improvements for the subdivision and the larger parcel in general. Land studies most often serve as the vesting document. When you see these plats coming in, that as part of the presentation, we state that they're vested under such and such land study. Again, it is that land study, that initial overall master plan that vests the overall development. And those regulations and requirements are under our state code, our Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 245, which does govern, is our state vesting statute. It also, a land study, again, it provides us the opportunity to start commenting, start that dialogue with the applicant. It can lead to the reduction of costs on part of the developer. When the primary purpose is that it provides that general plan for the overall development of the property. Again, general is important. Once these plats come in, they don't necessarily have to be exact when compared to the land study. As long as it generally complies with the land study, the subdivision will be in compliance with that land study. And we look at that in terms of layout of streets, open spaces, including parks, again, sites for public facilities such as police and fire stations, libraries, and then obviously utilities. And again, also provides the opportunity to look into the availability of the necessary infrastructure. Again, in terms of all those public facilities that we've mentioned. Once the land study is approved, obviously all subsequent subdivisions have to be consistent and compliant with that land study. Again, it is a general plan, so minor variations are allowed. If there's any major changes, such as a major change in land use or a major significant change in density, then that is something that would have to come back in front of City Plan Commission as a revised or amended land study. But again, most plans do comply with the land study, which does allow for minor variations. What does a land study include? Again, the general arrangement of land uses, including parks, schools, drainage facilities, other public facilities, the proposed density, whether it's single family, multifamily apartments and/or commercial, industrial, the phasing, the overall phasing, timing of the development, traffic circulation patterns. A traffic study is always required with the land study. Your preliminary drainage plans, again, preliminary plans. The details on those plans are part of the subdivision improvement plans that are submitted as part of the subsequent plats that come subsequent to the land study. And then it also gives us a chance to look at the relationship to the abutting development surrounding the proposed land study. How long are land studies in effect? Again, based on the way our state statute is currently written, there is really no end date. As long as certain things are happening. The main thing is that progress is being made under that approved land study. Again, so vesting does allow projects to be vested at the time of the submittal of that application. So whatever development requirements are existing at the time of submittal, those requirements would apply to all subsequent plats that come in under that land study. There is ways that a project may be able to lose the vesting, and again, the main thing is that there is no progress for 5 years. Say nothing comes in for 5 years, it becomes dormant for 5 years or more. Then at that point, vesting would go away. Or if the project changes, if on the land study they were proposing commercial, and the subsequent plat comes in as residential, a single-family residential, that's not in line with the same project. That would be a different project. So at that point, vesting would not apply. But overall, as you see, part of our presentations, mostly everything that comes in does comply with the approved land study. And then just quickly, some examples. The one you saw today, Rancho Las Lomas land study. Does cover this entire area, was submitted and approved in 2003, and then revised or amended in 2008. This is up on the west side. The one we presented on a couple meetings ago, Paso del Este Mud land study, again, a large area covering the big part of the east side, includes within the city and outside the city. Now, I think that this one is entirely outside the city. Again, showing all the different types of proposed land uses, sites for infrastructure, the street layout, your green areas, your open space areas, your park areas. And this includes the areas of the Mission Ridge development, as well as Peyton Estates. And then just another example, Enchanted Hills land study, again on the west side, showing the overall proposed land use layout, the overall street layout, park sites and such. Again, this one was submitted in 2007 and approved in 2008. So that concludes my presentation. Again, just want to give you a basic idea of how we look at land studies and the role they play with the subdivisions that come before you on a daily basis. You hear us over and over again saying these are vested, but this is what we're talking about. And again, land studies almost all the time are that vesting document that vests these projects. That concludes my presentation.
Gutierrez, thank you very much for that information. Very informative. Would you be able to send that to us?
Sure.
So that we can have it on our system?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And also on that note, we'll be providing the presentation that Russell provided
Right.
last meeting as well to the commission, just for your edification, for you can refresh yourself again and again.
Truly appreciate the refresher.
Sure. You're welcome.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
I have a frank question. It's something I bring up a lot. Maybe I learned this along the way, but the early 2000s were a period where a lot of the developers in the city did land studies to get the vesting before new codes came in, right? I mean, I'm not leading you that question. I'm just asking you, is that true? I mean, it seems like there's very little that's not land studied in the city of El Paso at this point.
Right.
And a lot of it happened in that period between 2000 and 2005-ish.
I think you could say that is true, but we do have land studies going back to the 80s that are still in effect. That progress has been established. It's never become dormant. In the 2000s, I think there was, I mean, you can go back to the 90s and the 2000s as far as the growth of the city. At a very rapid pace, and I think those land studies that you saw come in were all part of that.
I mean, are there land studies coming in now?
The last one was the northeast, far northeast. That's butting up against the state line there, so there are very few.
Not much land out there.
I don't
to
know
study.
if there's any left, right? Yes, sir.
So these don't expire. Subdivisions within the land study would expire, but these generally don't, except every 5 years. Is that?
Right. They generally don't. Obviously, when the plats come in, they get built, they're developed, they're there forever. They're complete. In terms of the land study, again, as long as that progress is established, there's no dormant periods of 5 years or more. The project doesn't change. It remains active and able to be utilized as a vesting, as the vesting document.
And I'll just do one more. I know you're ready, but this is part of why I'm just staying on a little longer in CPC, and I appreciate you all. I don't necessarily think it's you all are being responsive to me. I think it's the emergence of the need to talk about these things, but I really think, and I'm glad to work with you both on some sort of a 30-minute intro, PowerPoint, something where coming in cold on the CPC and not understanding this, and like I said, it took me a couple of years to kind of understand how this all works, would really give people a head start and make your jobs easier and their jobs easier and whatever that looks like, because you do over the years, especially like at the annual meeting, you teach us a lot, but I feel like there just has to be, just like we have to go do the trainings for sexual harassment or whatever, I think there should be a mandatory 30-minute, 1 hour primer on how your world works, because it's not something that the layman can kind of figure out very easily. You guys went to school, you've been doing it for years, it's not easy. So I appreciate this.
Yeah, if I can, and that's something, a lot of the comments coming from the commission have reinforced, if you will, of the need for that training. Not only the onset, but that consistent training, like was mentioned. The annual business meeting, we typically have something there, but we realize, to your point, is it covers quite a bit about how we develop here in the city. We talk about zoning, we talk about site plans, we talk about all plats, we talk about land studies, we talk about vesting, all these different topics, and we're just touching the surface, scratching the surface of these. Is that training. And so to your point, that's one thing that we're working with internally, is to create a more comprehensive onboarding, if you will, to the commissioners. Obviously, it's not going to be everything, but at least it's a header better start, so that when you came on board, when all the other commissioners came on board, it'll be a little bit better for those new ones that come on. They'll be like, oh, hey, I have at least an idea of what is being talked about, rather than you come into these commission meetings and be like, a land study, what's that? You know, a subdivision. I think of a subdivision as 500 homes coming in. Oh, it could be a single lot. A lot of those things that can help better educate the new commissioners, and it can help you in your decisions and your recommendations.
Well, I volunteer, so you can off-board me. I volunteer to be your guinea pig with your whatever material or training or whatever it is that you have, so that, you know, I could say, yeah, that makes sense. That would have made sense when I first came on, and now I'll go away.
Yeah, and so we are in the process of creating a packet, if you will, a physical packet, but also a presentation where the new commissioner can ask us as staff, you know, hey, what does this mean? I'm looking over this. What is it? And just a reminder too, you're always welcome to reach out to myself or Raul or Philip to ask questions about these. Beforehand, we can happy to talk offline. If something is needed for the commission as a whole, that's where we can create and tailor a presentation to what would help you in your growth too, as commissioners, and helping us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Garcia, for a clear, comprehensive presentation. I have two questions. One is, I imagine that the big developers have staff who are watching for that 5-year dormancy situation, but maybe the small developers, the smaller businesses don't. And I wondered, what is the mechanism? Is there a mechanism for reminding people that the 5-year dormancy is almost up? Or is that up to the developer?
It's up to the developer.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
And I'm sure, you know, they have a lot of time and a lot of monetary
Stakes.
and stake and investment in it. So I'm sure they pay
Right.
close attention to that.
Okay, great.
As you see, there are plats that aren't vested, so obviously those are subject to the current standards. But I mean, if we find any situation coming close, we definitely make him aware. But it mostly falls on the developer.
Okay, my second question relates to my service on the Low Impact Development Committee, which doesn't meet all that frequently, but you know, we need to get going. So thinking ahead, as someone, you know, 5 or 10 years from now, what kinds of things would you like to see in the initial land studies that would help us move from good practices, you know, like the ponds, for example, into even better practices, such as the harvesting of water for local plants?
Sure. So again, land studies, they provide the general plan, right? It's a general overall master plan. I think those ideas, those very good and sensible ideas that you mentioned, is something that's being looked at as part of our grading, our drainage design standards for construction, our drainage ordinance, our landscaping ordinance, which those ideas you mentioned would be more applicable to be placed into those ordinances, which I believe we are being looked at. We are looking at them to revise them and update them, to provide for that detail, right? That so we can be assured that we're capturing what we want to see when it comes time to landscape the property or submit those drainage plans. The land study, again, is it encompasses everything: drainage, parks, streets, lot layout, land use. So it's a lot on there. That's why it's more general in nature. But I think the best opportunity is when we get into the details of things, and where we can develop our codes to require the things that we want to see.
Okay.
When it comes to landscaping and drainage and low impact type design.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So let me ask you something. So something that the land study was done in the 80s, as long as they've been continuing doing something, it's still on. So is it fair to say that most of the land studies are obsolete? Because you can't compare something that was done in the 80s to something we're in 2022.
Right. So I think one thing that wasn't part of the presentation that needs to be considered is vesting doesn't apply to everything, right? When it comes to certain health and safety issues, development permits, building permits, a lot of that stuff by code is not vested. So when that stuff comes in, they have to comply with the current standards. Again, what we're talking about is the overall layout of the property, land use, Title 19 subdivision standards. Those are the things that would be vested under those previous ordinances. But again, once the development gets into the construction stage and those building permits come in, they can't come in and claim vesting under the previous fire code or under the previous plumbing code. It's pretty clear that vesting would not apply to those to those aspects. So in those aspects, we get the current requirements in terms of health, safety, and welfare.
Okay.
And if I might add on to a little bit, to get a little bit more into the weeds, if you might, is when they submit for vesting, obviously when they come in for the original land study, it proposes, well, I'll pick on street cross sections, and say here's the width, and this was 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it may be. They can also request for certain provisions of the current code to be considered under. So there was a application today that gave a certain cross section where it had 4-foot sidewalks and 4-foot parkways. Obviously, that is well below the standard of what we want to see. However, they elected to say, you know what, I want to provide a different cross section that's more in line with our current standards. And actually, it exceeded the standards where I think this was the one on Wrestler there, where it had a hike and bike trail, it had wider sidewalks, wider parkways, it had narrower lanes. So it does allow for certain provisions, and it's up to the applicant, it's up to the developer to select, hey, I want to use these provisions because I can provide a better design. Other ones, they choose not to, and it's up to them.
Just to expand real quick on that, that's a really good point. Even though we can't require that, but right, because they're vested, however, as you see in your backup, a lot of times developers do request to use the current standards. Just timing-wise, development-wise, phasing-wise, it does work better for them.
Yeah, sales-wise probably too.
Exactly.
I mean, you want a neighborhood with trails and
Right.
nice parkways.
Continuity to go in line with what's already there. Yeah.
And I guess lastly, I wanted to add something to what the chair said about the training. I'm more into more than training, more than because I don't have a degree in any of this. And I've told you guys this. To me, this is just common sense. Everything in life is common sense to me. So having said that, I mean, yes, I want to get a concept of what you guys do, but I would be more intrigued to sit with you guys and make changes to stuff that doesn't make sense. I feel like if I go and sit down with you guys and get a perspective of what you guys are saying, is just I'm going to be sitting here like a mannequin or whatever you call the things, you know what I mean? Right. Yes, I need to approve this. No, well, when does this change start?
So
I mean, is there a study? Do we handle stuff the same way as Austin or San Antonio, or is there like another model we can start looking in the future to it, or are we just going to keep doing this?
Right. No, definitely hear you. So obviously staff is always happy to sit down with anybody to go over and answer questions and provide information. I think what you're talking about is a little much bigger than that. And you're talking about subcommittees, like the subcommittee that we have for low impact. I don't know if Kevin wants to expand on that, but that's where those ideas would start. That's where that discussion would start. It would eventually come before City Plan Commission, eventually as part of the process, the stakeholder input, development community, the public, everybody involved, at some point coming before the City Plan Commission, and then eventually City Council. City Council would need to adopt any changes to our codes. But yeah, I think the best place to start would be those subcommittees.
Yeah, if I might. Yeah, I think Raul sort of hit on the head. So at the end of the day, we can talk till we're blue in the face, but as was reiterated numerous times, is we have a code before us. The state gives us certain parameters, which we have to work within those parameters, and then City Council then has other parameters. The City Council ones we can work with and modify as they see appropriate, But again, they have to work within the state parameters. So if we wanted to eliminate the vesting, if we wanted to say, hey, you have to comply with all standards, well, that's going to have to be a state change and not a city change. But there are certain things. So as I mentioned before, the cross sections used to be 4 foot for a sidewalk. That was an ordinance change where it said, you know what, 4 foot is insufficient for appropriate travel for a pedestrian. We need it wider than 5 feet. There's even thought now of, hey, is 5 feet enough or should it be 6 feet? Certain circumstances, it should even be wider, especially in downtown where we want it to be the most walkable. It should be definitely wider than 5 feet where we want to encourage pedestrian activity. And so the change is, you see these on a regular basis, these items. You observe certain things that some things I'm sure you're okay with, other things where you're like, that doesn't really make sense. Those things that don't make sense, we'd be happy to sit down with you, but it'd be a matter of talking with probably a subcommittee to get the ball rolling. But then it has to go through this public vetting process. And then eventually it'd be a recommendation coming from both staff and the City Plan Commission up to City Council, who would then enact those changes. But again, it's that public process that we'd have to go through. But in terms of a lot of design, we are working on improving the codes. We're not satisfied with where they're at. We do see deficiencies, and we have a laundry list of things we'd love to address. But again, it's that process and going through all that does take time, and sometimes it is very slow to go through.
Thank you for everything. And thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Raul.
So if I might, one of the things, and just a preview for the next time is, I believe we're going to be working with our engineering division manager and our floodplain administrator, Mr. Kareem Dallo, who will be presenting on drainage design, as well as some of the efforts that he's undergoing right now to improve the design. But he'll be one that we're going to have on an upcoming agenda that we're looking forward to in the coming weeks. So that's another one that we're having. So obviously all this feedback we appreciate, the comments as well as the suggestions, because that is how we improve it as well. We see these, we hear these, and we're like, hey, you know what, that is something we do need to change, we do need to improve, and just working through the process of getting going.
Kevin, just one question. County and city.
Yes, ma'am.
Any input from the county?
So we're still trying to get the county to come and talk to us and talk to the commission about a lot of their standards. I believe that the schedules haven't been able to work out. So but that is something we're still trying to have the county come and talk to things, especially as we have that cross purview of items within our ETJ, but within their jurisdiction as well. So I think that'd be beneficial, as well as those items that are outside the city ETJ as well, that are within other municipalities or just simply out there in the county. It'd probably be beneficial for your edification to listen to them, but we're still trying to coordinate with them.
And I mean, they just need to be on the phone. We don't need them here, so it might be a little easier. But like maybe text dot for one of the ETJ items that's coming up, and the county.
Yeah, so and obviously TxDOT's another one too that it'd be beneficial for them to come and talk to, because a lot of these roadways, whether it's in the city or outside, are budding TxDOT roadways, and what we can or can't require, or it'd be beneficial, I think, for the commission to hear from them.
Yes, ma'am.
Related to that issue, there was an item on the agenda for today that was postponed that was within our ETJ, but within, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but within, I wondered if it was Horizon City within their boundaries. And so my question relates to like ETJs that bump into one another. Do these little towns and cities have ETJs? And when they do, which ETJ prevails? Because I had a question about whether or not they were consulted about this plan coming in.
And I can speak to that for a moment. I don't want to get too far away from the agenda, but for typically, from my understanding, the state code is that the larger municipality would supersede the smaller. So then our ETJ would bump into Horizon, and then they have their ETJ where ours, we stop at obviously their city limits.
So are they in the loop on items that come before us that even though their ETJ is not a powerful one?
It's one or the other. It's a county
Oh, it's
or
one or the
a
other.
city.
Okay.
It's not like it's the city of El Paso, then Vinton or Horizon, whoever. It's one or the other. So
Oh, okay.
it'd be a city that approves it, and then a county, and if it's an ETJ,
Okay,
that would approve it as well.
okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks again. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn, Stout.
Second, Gutierrez.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you all very much.